Hello and welcome to our January studio meeting of TV Toastmasters. We have a full agenda today. We're going to have 3 speakers. We also have a guest speaker. Miss Nancy Beck is going to be giving us a presentation today. What I would like to do at this point is introduce our Toastmaster for today, Miss Verna Gibson. I'll turn over the meeting to Verna.
Excuse me. We do have a full agenda today, and we also have 3 guests. Jianhua has been here before, and we're hoping she's going to be a member soon, but she is giving a speech today. We have another guest who's getting ready to join, Kristen Wright. This is her first time here today. You'll see her a little bit later. And Nancy Beck, who also happens to be my niece, is doing a very special speech today, and we hope she might think about becoming a member. We haven't talked about that yet, but we're hoping. So let's welcome our guests and our studio audience. Okay, first thing, I think everybody has an agenda, and I do want to remind you that next month is going to be our speech contest. We have 4 speakers signed up already and 3 evaluators. We have a target speaker and we have a chief judge, so we're well on our way to having the plans completed for our contest. However, we still need judges, timers, and counters. So if you haven't signed up yet, make sure you put your name down on the sheet or tell me what you would like to do for next month's contest, February the 19th. At this time, since I am doing the joke, I'm going to proceed with a little bit of humor. 7 reasons not to mess with a child. A little girl was talking to her teacher about whales. The teacher said it was physically impossible for a whale to swallow a human because even though it was a very large mammal, its throat was very small. The little girl stated that Jonah was swallowed by a whale. Irritated, the teacher said that the whale could not swallow a human. It was physically impossible. The little girl said, "Well, when I get to heaven, I will ask Jonah." The teacher replied, "What if Jonah went to hell?" The little girl replied, "Then you ask him." A kindergarten teacher was observing her classroom of children while they were drawing. She would occasionally walk around to see each child's work. As she got to one little girl who was working diligently, she asked what the drawing was. The girl replied, "I'm drawing God." The teacher paused and said, "But no one knows what God looks like." Without missing a beat or looking up from her drawing, the girl replied, "They will in a minute." And I think we will end our humor with that. So at this time, I'm going to bring up our grammarian and word of the day, our person for word of the day, Joe Swirling. So let's welcome Joe Swirling. Joe Swirling, word of the day.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As grammarian, I will be taking notes and at the end of the meeting giving a report on uses of ahs and ums, inappropriate, or where pauses are used appropriately in place of an ah or an making suggestions for positive improvement, pointing out any grammatical areas for improvement, and those that have already demonstrated interesting grammatical usage. Additionally, we have 2 words of the day which we will try to use in our speeches, table topics, evaluations at any point. And I have chosen 2 words, futility and utility. Reason for this was I spent all week battling with Cincinnati Bell on the portability of my cell phone number. They moved my number to my new cell phone with Cincinnati Bell from Sprint. Unfortunately, they moved the wrong number. Then they couldn't figure out how to move it back and get the right number. So they even had my home phone number messed up all week. And I thought it interesting that the words futility and utility are so similar Now, by definition, there's no direct connection, but there sure seems to be in the way utilities operate. A utility is a government-regulated public service. I used to be a government regulator myself of savings and loans. But the public service they have to offer varies with the wind. Storms, overloaded customer service representatives, they never tell you they never have enough people available. They just say they have a high demand. The high demand runs 24 hours a day. So utility, and besides the public utility, it means serviceability, adequacy, practicality, productiveness. Again, as far as the utility is concerned, sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. And futility, and also the particular word futile, hopeless, unavailing, unsuccessful, useless, vain, desperate. And that's the way the customers of utilities feel when they're being disserviced by a public utility sometimes. So I encourage everyone to try to use the words futile, futility, or utility in their presentations. And I will hold this up so the speaker can see this as they're giving their presentations today. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Futility, utility. Yes. I can imagine trying to work something out with the phone company could seem very futile at times. Of course, also try to work with the insurance company or the IRS, which I have done in the last year. That's been fun too. That's another futile effort at times. At this time, I'm going to welcome Carol Kormelink. Carol is doing our table topics today. Table topics is 1 to 2 minutes of impromptu speaking. So at this time, I'm going to welcome Carol Kormelink. Carol.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Now, why do we need to learn how to think before we answer a question? One, we have to learn to listen to the question before we start answering, because it may be entirely different than when it started out, the question. And the second thing is that keeps us from stuttering, because we have time here to learn. We experienced how to do that. My questions today, because this is the new year, is about resolutions. Now, in table topics, you have the opportunity to tell the truth, make up some wild story, or not even answer that question and use it to trigger the answer to another question. My questions today are going to be a little more serious. The other night at a meeting, they asked rhetorical questions. For instance, why do they have Braille on the ATM machines at the drive-in windows? But today, our questions are going to be about resolutions. 97% of the resolutions that are made are not kept. So why do people make resolutions? And my first person today will be Kristen Wright. Kristen.
I think people make resolutions every year as an opportunity to better themselves and to become a better person, to grow and to stretch themselves in some ways. Even though, as I understand from Carol, people don't always keep their resolutions, in fact, frequently don't keep them. It's a really good chance to stretch. For instance, some resolutions I made last year, I didn't keep. But just the opportunity to reach toward them stretched me in ways that I could not even imagine. So this year, I'm looking at a lot of different kinds of resolutions. I think typical resolutions that people make have to do oftentimes with either exercising or getting on a better diet. And so I have a fair share of those resolutions going on this year. And also, I want to write every day. I'm writing online, and I'm trying to write some more articles, working on a book about people who are persecuted for their faith. So all of these opportunities are going to stretch me, Last year was a really great year for me because I was able to work on the North Korea Human Rights Act, which was legislation geared toward promoting human rights in communist North Korea. All through last year, I could never have guessed that it would actually get passed overwhelmingly by both the House and the Senate, but it did. So that was something that it was a huge victory. It was something I worked toward. A lot of other people worked toward as well, and it was successfully passed. So resolutions can be a terrific thing, even though you don't quite measure up to them some of the time. They can be an excellent opportunity to stretch yourself.
Thank you, Kristen. That was great. One of the other resolutions, and I hope I'm not getting into Rick's speech, but I had decided that I was going to start walking the mall, and I haven't done that. So, Joe, could you tell me if I've failed already, how I can have some success instead of feeling like a failure, because it's only 15 days of the month and I've already failed my resolution for the year.
Topics Master. Well, first of all, I must point out the futility of asking a person who is perennially behind on filing tax returns, other paperwork, getting it all accomplished. So I'm behind on a lot of things due to procrastination, potential ADD, and so on. Nevertheless, my philosophy over the years in the status of having so many things backlogged that I don't accomplish is that if I keep going to Toastmasters meetings, it takes my mind off those items. And eventually, in those meetings, I'll talk about my failings. It'll re-motivate myself to perform those things that I've been wanting to do. Fitness and losing weight is another area that I've been wanting to work toward. Being better organized, better communicator. And a lot of those things you learn directly in Toastmasters by doing them yourself, the practice, by observing others. Kristen did very excellent, I think, on her Tabletopics, and learning from each other as we do these mini speeches, which is what Tabletopics are, and doing the regular speeches. So maximize Toastmasters. It takes your mind off of what you haven't accomplished, and it motivates you to start again on what you want to do. I'm Topic Master.
Thank you, Joe. Being a procrastinator, I know about that. So you're saying that I'm just procrastinating eventually, and maybe after I hear Rick's speech today, I will be ready to do something about that. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Great table topics. All right, we're going to move on to the speech portion of our meeting, and our first speaker today is Nancy Beck. Nancy is a guest with us today, and we are all looking forward to hearing what she has to say. Nancy Beck's personal mission is to inspire and enable others, especially children, to dream and to achieve their dreams. In keeping with this mission, her life title is Dream Keeper. She is also the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Claremont County. Nancy says, "When I was a child, I always said I wanted to have a dozen children of my own. Well, I have 3 beautiful children and about 600 more who are mine for a little while each day. I've been involved with the Boys and Girls Club of Claremont County since 1999. As the executive director, Nancy takes very seriously her responsibilities for these children. She has them for a few hours each day, and they know that they have a safe place to be, where they will have fun, receive love and guidance, and will learn new skills that will help them become successful adults. Nancy is always pleased to find ways to merge her love of the outdoors with her passion for helping kids. In the past, she has taken the club kids camping, whitewater rafting, and horseback riding. She is currently planning a major adventure for herself with the Sierra Club to Africa to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. She is using Climbing for Kids' Sake blog, I think that's your website, I believe, to help raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. She's using this climb to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. So, Climbing for Kids' Sake, Nancy Beck, Climbing for Kids' Sake. Thank you.
Toastmaster and Aunt Verna. On February 17th, I'll be leaving for the adventure of a lifetime. I have the great good fortune to be part of a group of Sierra Club members who are going to Africa to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, the crown of Africa. This is an incredible opportunity in so many ways. It will be physically challenging, breathtakingly beautiful, exotic landscapes, and more. Mount Kilimanjaro is 19,340 feet high. To put that in perspective, Mount Whitney in California, which is the highest point in the 48 contiguous states, is 14,491 feet high. So Kilimanjaro towers about 5,000 feet above that. Mount Kili is the highest point in Africa, which also makes it one of the 7. That is the highest point on each of the 7 continents. It'll take us 4+ days to reach the summit, and along the way, we'll pass through an amazing variety of climate zones, which of course also means an amazing variety of plants and animals. From elephants and rhinos to lions and leopards, from the Serengeti Plain to the rainforest at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro, to frozen tundra and glaciers at the top. Kili is not a difficult technical climb. It's just a very long, very steep hike. And the most challenging day for us will be the summit day. Our trek will begin at midnight or 1 a.m. on that day and will last for about 15 hours. During that time, we'll climb 4,000 feet to reach the summit and then back down about 7,000 feet to reach the camp where we'll stay for that evening. It'll take about 15 hours to cover 15 miles on that day. That's the day that's going to separate the fit from the fittest. The group that we are traveling with, who are acting as our guides, say that about 8 out of every 10 people will make it to the summit. However, 2 other sources that I've referenced both say that about 1 out of every 10 will actually reach the summit. But beyond experiencing the physical challenge and the physical beauty of Mount Kilimanjaro, for me, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to meet and know new people, people who are from a culture that's completely different from my own. People with their own rich traditions and customs that I don't know about yet. What an incredible opportunity to immerse myself in an entirely new world. Kenya, Tanzania, Moshi, Kilimanjaro, to a farm girl from Ohio, even the names sound exotic and full of mystery. The anticipation I feel as we're getting ready for this trip has me feeling sort of thin and stretched out and all tingly as my senses are straining to absorb everything. And we haven't even left yet. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when we get there. Things will be so different from what we're accustomed to here. The hotel where we'll be staying when we first arrive in Africa is in a small town called Moshi. The online description of that hotel's amenities boasts that each room has its own bath and mosquito netting. It also tells us that the grounds are fenced so that guests may safely enjoy the out of doors during the evening hours. It took me a few minutes of processing that little bit of information to realize that they meant safe from nocturnal animals. And I don't think we're talking about raccoons. It'll be a totally new experience for me to be a visitor in a new land. I've never even had a passport before in my life. Now I'll be facing new foods, new customs, new ways of living. The Lonely Planet Guidebook to East Africa has a whole section on society and conduct, and it cautions us to act and dress modestly, to show no signs of affection, not even hand-holding in public. And it also stresses things like the importance of showing deference to the elderly who are held in high regard, and also public officials who have great power over your fortunes. East Africans place a lot of stock in pleasantries and expect to spend several minutes in polite greeting before they even begin a conversation. There are customs related to how one receives a gift. It can be accepted either with both hands or with one hand extended while your right hand extended while the left hand touches your right elbow. There are customs related to how you serve and eat when you are eating family style. Each person uses their right hand both to scoop and eat the food from the communal bowl. You never use your left hand to eat or to serve, and in fact it's considered impolite in many areas to even pass things using your left hand. I feel like there is so much to be aware of and so many things that are new and different. I really hope that in my ignorance I don't do something that will cause the people of Tanzania to believe that everyone from America is rude. As I was thinking about all this and learning these things, I realized that it must, of course, be just as bewildering to someone from East Africa who's visiting the U.S. for the first time. Several years ago, I wrote some goals down in what I call my dream book. And in it I wrote, "Far-off lands where the language follows a different rhythm, where the air is loaded with scents that are new to me. It wakes my soul, arouses my spirit, and stirs my passions. I want to go everywhere, see everything, and know the differences by living them." I hope that one of my dreams is about to come true. I have, with your permission, just a little add-on. You may be wondering what any of this has to do with kids. First of all, my favorite quote in the whole world says, 100 years from now, it will not matter what my bank account was, the sort of house I lived in, nor the kind of car I drove, but the world may be different because I was important in the life of a child. I find that I'm not able to do anything in my life without turning it inside out and looking for a way that I can use it to benefit the Boys and Girls Club. Since I have this opportunity to go to Mount Kilimanjaro, I'm also using it as an opportunity to raise money for the club by asking people to sponsor me. So I'm looking for people who want to sponsor me so much money for every 1,000 feet of elevation that I make it. My goal is to make it to the top. So 19,000 feet is pretty ambitious. If anyone is interested in finding out more about that, you can go to my blog site, which Verna referred to earlier. It's www.dreamkeeperblog.blogspot.com, or email me at nancyb10@one.net. That's nancyb10@one.net. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. That was absolutely terrific. And I do have an apology to make. I was supposed to be timing Nancy, and I got so interested in what she was saying, I forgot to time her. But you did a terrific job. And also, I want to mention that Nancy is going to come back in March and give us a follow-up and tell us about the trip. So I'm looking forward to that. So again, thank you, Nancy. It was terrific. Our next speaker is Rick Davis. Rick Davis is doing an editorial, and Joe Swirling will be evaluating Rick. So Joe, would you read the criteria for Rick's speech?
Yes, Madam Toastmaster. Rick is giving speech number 1 from the Communicating on Television manual, which is one of the advanced manuals and is a specialty of our club. And the specific project is Straight Talk. The objectives are to effectively present an editorial or viewpoint in a short time, to simulate giving a presentation as part of a television broadcast. Well, we don't have to simulate it because we're here. And the time is 3 minutes plus or minus 30 seconds. Time is even more important in a television scenario, so we have even more precise time parameters than normal. So Straight Talk is the project for Rick Davis.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Thank you. All right, so Rick Davis is doing an editorial. The title of his speech is Welcome to 2005. Welcome to 2005, Rick Davis.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Welcome to the second month of the 5th year of the second millennium. Welcome to 2005. We are 5 years into the second millennium. What have you done to impact your life over these last 5 years? Think about it. We're 5 years into the second millennium. Are you carrying a few extra pounds? Maybe 2005 is the time to lose them. We know that carrying extra weight is a very serious concern for diabetes. And diabetes is a very important chronic condition, very serious chronic condition. Maybe 2005 is the time to resolve to get over that and to lose that extra weight. Or maybe tobacco is your demon. We know that 400,000 people a year lose their lives to tobacco use through lung cancer, through chronic heart disease, through all sorts of terrible conditions. Maybe 2005 is a time to impact your life and to lose tobacco. Or perhaps you have some unfinished business. Maybe like Joe, you haven't filled out 1999's income tax return. Maybe it's time to get caught up. Maybe you need to finish your high school diploma or finish your college degree. Maybe 2005 is the time to put that in order. Get your GED or to start some night courses. Or maybe you want to travel, like Nancy was talking about. Maybe 2005 is that year to get your passport, to start thinking about how you can put some money away every month so that now you can live your dream. You can visit Mount Kilimanjaro, or you can visit France, or you can visit those places that you've dreamed about. Now's the time, 2005. Or maybe it's time you join Toastmasters. Toastmasters will positively impact your life, and I can guarantee that. Maybe it's time to think about how Toastmasters will affect your career, how it will affect your individual life, your personal life. Maybe 2005 is the year that you join Toastmasters. Now is the time to resolve to impact your life, to have some impact on your life. 5 years into this second millennium. Don't let 2005 get away from you. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Great speech. All right. Moving right along, our next speaker is Jianhua Zhang, and I hope I have said that correctly, and if I haven't, I apologize. Jianhua is starting a new manual, Interpersonal Communication. Her evaluator is going to be Kristen Wright. So, Kristen, would you like to read the criteria for Jianhua's speech? Kristen, thank you.
Jianhua's objectives for the speech that she's going to give are to, number one, identify techniques for use in conversing with strangers. Number two, recognize different levels of conversation. And number three, initiate a conversation with a stranger. Number four, use open-ended questions to solicit information for further conversation. Sounds very interesting to me.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Jianhua's speech will have 4 parts to it. This manual is particularly interesting and relevant to Jianhua for the reason that each day we interact with many people in a variety of conversational situations, and it takes a good conversationalist to win friends, influence people, create warm and fuzzy feelings, earn respect, and create camaraderie. This first speech will be striking a conversation with a stranger for the first time. Jianhua, conversing with ease, Jianhua.
How do you feel when you walk into a room full of strangers? Do you feel comfortable, energized? And do you find everybody's face lit up when you walk in? Or do you feel uncomfortable and nervous, as if you don't want to be here, you want to go home and sit in front of TV? If you are afraid people find you boring, cut and dry, and odd, like I am, you are not alone. We all know that conversation is important. We have a basic human need to communicate with each other. We are hungry for love, trust, and care. We also use conversation to enrich each other. A person who does not know how to converse with people will more likely to be left alone. and you miss a lot of opportunity to gather information, support, and inspiration. Conversation is also fun. A story well told worth a million words. The right timing, right place, right occasion, and the right amount of winks and knuckles make a story fun and memorable. Who does not believe that a good laugh is therapeutic? Yet sometimes we have too much constraint for ourselves. We wonder if we would say anything embarrassing and interesting or wrong or offensive. We wonder if people don't like us. We are afraid of exposing ourselves and become vulnerable. But don't worry, we can learn. In conversing with a stranger, we need to watch out for the four basic steps. We need to first begin with a level of small talk. For first-time conversations, we begin with small talks that are neutral and safe. For example, the weather. Once we're done with the small talk, when we want to know each other better, that brings us to level 2, fact disclosure. We can begin to disclose personal occupations and hobbies. And the next level is to talk about personal viewpoints and opinions, mutual acquaintances. Once we're comfortable with each other, we can talk about anything. Then we can make true friends. Experts call it level 4 communication. Awkward communications may arise due to rushing through the 4 stages. For example, without inspiring neutral feelings, you already are talking about personal problems. That can make each other uncomfortable. But on the other hand, if we keep on talking about weather and the small talks, we will never make friends. So additional tips in a good conversations also include that if we want to be an interesting conversationer, we need to be enthusiastic about life itself. I've known people who are such personalities. They can talk about anything, everything. They are so interested in it. And they know so much. They keep up with current event and historical stories. So you would love to converse with those people. And secondly, it helps to be a good listener. If you're interested in other people's stories, then people would love to talk with you. And the technique involved is ask open questions. It helps to ask a question, the other person can give you a 2 minutes answer rather than yes or no. And another good tip is to pay appropriate compliment. Everybody likes to be pat on the shoulder for something they did and something they are. And the last tip is be a good observer. If you feel other people have a different opinion, you can make it more neutral and make it acceptable to continue the conversation. So above all is to have a positive attitude. If you are interested in conversing with people, you will become a good conversationer. For the next part, I'm going to do a role play with Steve, who kindly offered to help. So I just moved. The scenario is I just moved to Cincinnati and joined his company. So we are meeting in a company party. So I'm going to strike a conversation with him as if I'm meeting him for the first time. And then after the conversation, I would love to have audience critiques what I did right or what I did wrong, and what Steve did right or wrong. Okay, Steve, I'm Jianhua. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jianhua.
It's a nice party here, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a real nice function.
Mm-hmm. So you have parties all the time in the company?
No, we don't have them too often.
Once in a year, probably.
Yeah, it's usually an annual event that they host, and it's quite a nice affair.
I can see they have a nice collection of food. I like seafood. What do you like?
Oh, seafood is fine. I'm one of those people who can eat most anything.
Well, at least they made it so colorful and arranged so well, so it's a nice occasion to, and also for us to know each other. I just moved here, so I don't know anybody.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome to our party, and welcome to town. Hope you're finding your adjustment here to be going fairly smoothly.
So, how long have you been here in Cincinnati? Do you like it here?
Well, I've been here 26 years. It took me a while to get to like it.
Which part do you like and which part you don't like? Do you not like?
Oh, well, one of the things that I think is really nice about Cincinnati is that it has a lot of variety as far as the city itself goes. You have areas with a lot of vegetation. You've got some real historic areas. You have some more modern areas with newer buildings. You've got arts. You've got education. I think those are some of the real pluses of the community.
Yeah, I would love to join a Toastmasters club in here because I was previously in my previous town. I was in the club and totally enjoyed it. Do you know anything about it?
Oh, yes, I know a fair amount about Toastmasters, and I can help you find a club, or if you would like to visit several clubs. We have some very active Toastmaster groups in Cincinnati, and we actually have a variety of clubs that meet at different times. We have some advanced clubs, so I think we can find something that you'd be interested in.
So how do you like the company? Which department are you in?
I'm in one of the research departments. We are focusing on groups involved in energy research.
That's nice. So do we have like cross-departmental meetings sometimes so we can know each other better? I work on research and development, so I work on how environmental agencies affect health and diseases.
Okay. Well, we do have all-hands meetings periodically, and we're both in the same building. I know that the group that's meeting here today is primarily people from the building that we're in, so I'll probably see you around in the hall. Are you upstairs or downstairs?
I'm upstairs.
Oh, okay. See, I'm on the lower floor.
Oh, okay.
But the cafeteria is a common area that both floors use, and I'd love to have you come down and see our office space and the kinds of things we do, because we're primarily field research. And you might find it interesting to learn about some of the things we do, where we take work that groups like yours do and go out and apply it.
Great. Maybe we can have lunch sometime.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thanks. So now, should we start commenting on what we just did? Anybody has any? But thank you.
Thank you, Jianhua. Great job. I enjoyed that. Very good. All right, at this time, we are moving into the evaluation portion of our program. Rick Davis happens to be our general evaluator today. So at this time, I'm going to ask Rick to come up to the lectern. So let's welcome Rick Davis.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I'd like to invite to the lectern the first evaluator, Joe Schwerling, who will evaluate my project, as well as you're the grammarian today, too. So why don't you do your grammarian report as long as you're up here. Joe Schwerling.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator and subject speaker. So I'll first get into my evaluation of Rick's presentation, the editorial, which is under the project Straight Talk in the Communicating on Television manual. Among the evaluation guideline that we have for each speech, and this one in particular, Of course, first of all, the current event was the new year, which the timing is quite appropriate. We're just a couple of weeks into the new year. You had your content included positive suggestions on things that we could do in the coming year and things that we tend to overlook in prior years, and good use of humor and references back to remarks made by previous speakers on our current show. So throwing in those impromptu last-minute references to things currently going on that the audience has just heard of or experienced is a good way to add the current additional interest from your audience. Of course, in a more sophisticated environment, we might have a teleprompter where you could have all the words, although they were well written and everything, you still had to look down at your pages, whereas, again, in a more sophisticated scenario, we might have a heads-up teleprompter where you wouldn't have to lose eye contact with the audience as you were speaking. I think you might have had a little more, if you'd had more vocal variety, and it would have emphasized the emotion at certain points where you were stressing some of the particular suggestions for the New Year's resolutions and things to accomplish. Obviously, very well dressed, very appropriate. He had a commanding presence there at the desk giving your formal editorial. So I think it wasn't a controversial topic that the audience would disagree with, but it was a good motivational presentation to remind us that this is the beginning of the year and it's time to start and start again and keep starting until we get it right. So thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll go ahead with the grammarian's report. I'm not sure if I missed it, but I don't know if anyone else other than Verna used the word between utility and futility. Anyone else use those? So, but at least we were reminded of the utilities to keep an eye out on and the futility. But nevertheless, if we keep in mind the New Year's resolutions to be persistent on what hasn't been accomplished in the past, that persistence can pay off even if you're, as eventually I did get the telephone company to straighten out my telephone lines. They haven't gotten a new one switched over yet. That's going to take another week. They told me 4 days. It's going to wind up being 2 weeks. As for ahs and ums, I didn't notice any significant use of those filler words. So that was very good on everyone's part. And the only grammatical or word usage comment I'd like to make was in Nancy's presentation, and this is extremely minor, but it seemed to me where you talked about to separate the fit from the fittest. I don't know if it's just the way I think, but I'm inclined to think that the part of it you're trying to highlight should be the first thing. So if you're saying, I'd be inclined to reverse it and say separate the fittest who made it from the fit who didn't. Or if you were going to say separate the fit from the unfit, then the lesser would be the second in that sequence. To me, it sounds more positive and indicating the achievement by stressing that higher accomplished level or fitness level first, followed by the alternative. So that was the only minor thing that I could point out. And again, just even minor word shifts can make a dramatic impact, whether it's an editorial or a motivational speech about something that's been accomplished or about to be accomplished. So, and again, that's something else we learned on Toastmasters by listening and observing everyone else's presentations. That's your general evaluator.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much, Joe. Our next evaluator is Kristen Wright, who is going to evaluate Jianhua's interpersonal communication project.
Jianhua, You did an outstanding job. I really liked this speech, and I was really looking forward to hearing it because this is an area that a lot of people can identify with. A lot of us struggle when we're in a new environment, meeting new people, and I think you did an outstanding job of showing us ways that can improve our conversation skills. I did want to say you have a very good way of connecting with the audience, and I would identify that as one of your strongest points. You can really connect with people. When you're up here talking, your eyes and the way that you talk is just a very good way of getting people on your team in terms of, yes, I understand what she means. Yes, I've been in that position before. I liked the very creative, open questions that you used to kind of get Steve to talk. You did an excellent job with that. I really liked the question about food because I'm always thinking, if I'm at a party or something, I'm talking to someone and I'm trying to think of good questions about, just small talk to get started. And the weather is always the only thing that will ever come to my mind. So it was great to hear you say, well, this food is nice. I like seafood. What do you like? That was outstanding. I really liked that. And then I thought it was also good that you showed some curiosity. You were curious about what he had said. I think you picked up on one point where Steve mentioned something that he liked or didn't like. And you said, oh yes, well, what don't you like? Or what do you like about Cincinnati? And that really was what started him to talk. You're also very friendly. That helps to just a very good attitude. One area for improvement that I saw for the conversation was just a little bit more comfort or being a little bit more relaxed. There were still some points in the conversation where it was seemed a little bit awkward, and so they'd be standing there saying, well, this is nice, and so it would be good to try to look around and to keep whatever conversation, whatever he had started saying, to try to pick up on that and keep the ball rolling a little bit more. Again, a challenge for me, very much so. I thought you did an excellent job. And then drawing that out a little bit further, I thought it might be a good idea to find some more open-ended questions, to kind of have a little stash of them wherever you go, maybe. More ideas. I like skiing. What do you like to do? That's a very open-ended question because it shows that you have an interest in sports of some sort, and it gives him the opportunity to say, well, I don't like skiing at all. I like doing this. And again, more open-ended. Another strong point, you were very real, very open. You admitted right off the bat, I have just come here, I don't have very many friends, I want to meet new people. And I think that's a good thing that kind of disarms the person that you're talking to. So again, excellent job, Jianhua.
Thank you, Kirsten. Our timer for today was Nancy Beck. Nancy, would you like to come up and tell us how we did on our time?
Read these off. Okay, Verna, with her joke was, she had 3 minutes and the joke portion was 1 minute and 27 seconds. Joe, for the word section, 3 minutes and 5 seconds. On the Tabletopics, Kristen was 1 minute and 39 seconds, and Joe was 1 minute and 33 seconds. We don't know how long Nancy took because the timer didn't do her job. Rick, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Out of the 2.5 minutes allotted. Jianhua, yours was broken into 3 4-minute sections, and your total time was 13.5 minutes. Joe, as an evaluator, 3 minutes allotted was 2 minutes and 39 seconds. And Kristen, the final evaluator, 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy. As a general evaluator, I have a few comments. I think it was really a fun meeting today. We had you got a real feel for the diversity of the kinds of projects that Toastmasters do in their clubs on a daily basis. Our banner was hung by the chimney with care, so St. Nicholas will visit us next year. The only comment I have is that we got started a little bit late, and we really do need to get started on time because we do have a limited amount of time here that we can use the studio. So we really need to get started on time. We're going to end on time, and then we can, everything will fit together really well. I would like to invite back to the lectern our Toastmaster for today, Verna Gibson. Verna.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Good evaluation. Well, I think we have had a terrific meeting today. That completes the speaking and evaluation portion of our program. So I'm just going to give you a quick reminder that next month will be our club contest. And if you haven't signed up yet, see me before you leave today so we can get you signed up. And at this time, I'm going to bring our president back, Steve Aaronholtz. Steve.
Thank you, Verna. I wanted to second Rick's comments. I think we had a really good meeting today, and I hope that those of you watching in enjoyed this as well. I wanted to acknowledge our cameraman, Jerome Manigan, and our director, Nikki Bishop, who have helped make this possible. I also would like to invite any of you who would like to come and see TV Toastmasters, come to one of our meetings. We meet the first Monday of each month at Kenwood Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. We also meet the third Saturday of each month at the Anderson Union Township Community Television Studio. We start at 9 o'clock. As Rick pointed out, sometimes we have a bit of a delay, but we're working on it. With that, I would welcome you to join us again next month, and we will adjourn our meeting.